about something I read. It's out of the Carlos Castaneda, The Power of Silence book. Anyway, this is pretty much, his books are basically a conversation between Carlos Castaneda and then his mentor or teacher, whose name is called Don Juan, and he's teaching him basically about awareness and behavior are the two main topics, in order to help, in his opinion, try to see more clearly how everything's happening on a day-to-day basis, and some of the deeper issues of really what reality is. So, and the books also include stories about events that occurred to him during about 10 years of talking to this man and doing things. So anyway, they were talking, and at one point, this particular sentence caught my attention. And he says, Carlos asked him a question, and he said, "I demanded that before he do anything, he explained to me again what heightened awareness really was." Don Juan, displaying great patience, discussed heightened awareness in terms of the movement of the assemblage point. As he kept talking, I realized the facetiousness of my request. I knew everything he was telling me. I remarked that I did not really need anything explained, and he said that explanations were never wasted because they were imprinted in us for immediate or later use, or to help prepare our way to reaching silent knowledge. Then it goes on and it says, when I asked him to talk about silent knowledge in more detail, he quickly responded that silent knowledge was a general position of the assemblage point, that ages ago it had been man's normal position, but that for reasons which would be impossible to determine, man's assemblage point had moved away from that specific location and adopted a new one called, quote, reason, unquote. Now, does that have any, do you see why that sparked some interest maybe in me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I read this as is that when we were connected with God, we were of this earth and we were pretty much functioning in a different way. Okay. And that was what he calls silent knowledge. We were simply functioned in a different way than we do now. Okay. And then we changed. Our awareness changed. Mankind's awareness changed. Okay. And now we are in what's called reason, or the age of reason, or all that. And I'm not saying it just happened in the last 100 years, 500 years. This happened, I'm sure, thousands or tens of thousands or even maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay. Now there's another paragraph which basically says that not everybody is squarely on the assemblage point of reason. Okay, so even though we all sort of see, again, the explanation that we know that this is a pen is a pen, a lamp is a lamp, not everybody is squarely on the same assemblage point. So everybody sees things just slightly differently, not just from their viewpoint, physical viewpoint, but mentally how they process it and perceive it. But he says the same thing is true when they were in silent knowledge, that point. Even though they were functioning differently in a different manner, not everybody was always at that same spot either.
Right.
Okay. And then he said something else that I found helpful. Okay. He also said, and this is Don Juan, that, quote, the place of no pity, unquote, being another position of the assemblage point, was the forerunner of silent knowledge.
So, pity was?
The place of no pity.
No pity.
And that yet another position of the assemblage point called, quote, the place of concern, unquote, was the forerunner of reason. Now, for me, the reason that this matters is, although I haven't described what the assemblage point is. Basically, what that means is how we manipulate the energy that we are given in order to perceive and act. There is a way that that's assembled, okay? And so he has named 4 different points in basically even an order of evolution, which I just found fascinating. Particularly that the place of no pity is the forerunner of silent knowledge. And then after that came the place of concern, and then reason. Now, I'm going to add my own thoughts to this, okay? I haven't read this anywhere, but this is how I look at it. The assemblage point of reason is when we are thinking basically in this intellectual, trying to understand things in a rational way, right?
Right.
You see? And I see the place of concern, in my opinion, as a different way of looking at the world, in the sense that more on an emotional level. Okay. Now, right now we combine emotion and reason together a lot of the time. We're sort of seeing side by side, and then it just depends, you know, what blend you're using. But I would see the place of concern as and I don't know, this is just to try to simplify it in my mind till I know better, as more of an emotional connection. I would see silent knowledge as basically more of what we would consider knowing what to do without having to ask, basically, or it would just be an ability to function without questioning ourselves or having doubts. And I think the reason is this: I don't think what we call our ego had been developed. You see what I'm saying? We would just sort of operate without the ego having this questioning aspect, you see, because we weren't, it's hard to think this way, but we weren't thinking in the sense of rationality. You see what I'm saying? And then finally, that the place of no pity was prior to that, really makes me have at least a better understanding of where it would go in terms of this idea of evolution. However, I am not real familiar with what is meant by that. I don't want to mislead you at this point. So that's what I wanted to tell you about, and that wraps it up for today. Okay?